So right now you're an amalgamation of who you used to be and all the experiences you've had. That's the first section, aka the old world. Who you are now, which is Lonely Land, and who you aspire to be.
But if you're in Lonely Land right now and you're a member of this community, you're choosing to be there. Because you could reach out to Alan, myself, Amy. Now, I know it's scary, but sometimes you got to do the brave thing to get out of Lonely Land. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another very special, as always, episode of Next Level University, where we teach you how to level up your life, your love, your health, and your wealth. Wipe that smirk off your face. We hope you enjoyed our latest episode. It was our Meetup Monday Q&A. Is this
Meetup Monday?
Meetup Monday show notes? Is the story I'm telling myself helping me or hurting me? Today, for episode number 669, are you stuck in Lonely Land? Alan, what is Lonely Land?
All right, so Lonely Land was created by my beautiful girlfriend, Emilia, and shout out. In relationship talks. So we just surpassed our 39th week in a row of relationship talks. And what we've found is that a lot of times one of the intimate partners is growing at a more accelerated rate than the other partner. And even while in a relationship, you can end up a little bit lonely and a little bit disconnected. And then usually the other partner will start to level up at that level. But so Lonely Land is basically this. So this podcast is called Next Level University. All of you know that. That means that, okay, let's say you're on level. So I'm 32 years old. I'm on chapter 32 of this life. I'm on level 32 of this life. All right, so in order to get to level 33, I'm going to have to change what I say, think, do, feel, and believe. I'm going to have to change who I am if I want to climb higher. I'm going to have to become more resilient. I'm going to have to become more visionary. I'm going to have to become more disciplined, blah, blah, blah.
More everything you want.
More of everything you want, an amplified version of you, next level you. Now, in order to do that, I have to allow some of the old persons, places, things, and ideas in my old world, aka chapter 31, to go away, and then I have to learn in chapter 32 how to get to chapter 33. And that chapter 32, that middle ground, is Lonely Land. So everyone imagine there's a piece of paper in front of you, and there's 3 sections of it. So there's 2 lines and 3 sections. The bottom is the old world. This is the old persons, places, things, and ideas, and I'll use me as an example. So when I quit drinking. All the podcast listeners know that. If you're new, I had a drinking problem for a time, and it took me 5 years to quit drinking, but I'm now basically 2 years sober. Okay. In my old world, there was a lot of drinking. We would party, we would go out, alcohol was a part of my life and a part of the lives of the people I spent time with. When I quit drinking, a lot of the persons, places, things, and ideas in the old world I had to let go of in order to get through to that next level. Now, the next level for me, at Next Level
Every
University.
time he says next level, I do the Vanna White pose to the TV.
Yeah, basically he's pointing to Next Level You every single time. So I quit drinking and I want to be a bodybuilder. And I start competing in fitness and I start being a fitness coach and a fitness model. So I traded in drinking for bodybuilding. But that middle ground was really hard for me. There was like a 2-year period, 1.5 period, where I kind of stopped spending time with the old persons, places, things, and ideas of the old world. And I started grinding and really working out every day for multiple hours a day. And I had a couple friends that are into fitness, but none of my old friends. So I was kind of caught between the old world and the new world. I didn't really fully fit in with the new world yet. Like I had a friend, Nate Smithson, who's beyond in shape.
Oh, he's jacked.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a stud.
And he also has been doing fitness for 13, 14 years at this point. And so I'm way behind him. So I don't fully fit in with him yet, but I definitely don't fit in with my old friends either who don't do fitness. And so that Lonely Land is that middle portion, that chasm where it's like, okay, I definitely don't fit in back there anymore. And every time I try to go back, I kind of know that I don't fit in, but I kind of don't fit in with this next level either. So I'm in this weird middle ground where it's like, crap, this is really, really hard and this is really, really lonely.
What do you do? I don't think, we were talking about this earlier, this isn't something I struggle with a ton, I don't think, because my circles are just really small and I've kind of always liked it that way. For me, it was with intimate relationships for sure. Like, I know you and I talked about this in the past. Like, I always had friends with benefits when I was single. That's why. looking back, like that's one of the reasons why. It's just
You
because
go into that?
it was just easier than being lonely. Like getting 30% of a relationship was just easier than being lonely. And with me traveling, actually, back then it was really bad. I was thinking of this the other day. I would get home at like, midnight from working a week. Like I'd walk in the door at midnight just getting home from New Jersey, living in New Hampshire, which is like a 5 or 6 hour ride, 8 hours depending on traffic. And my house is just silent. All the lights are off. I'm there by myself. If it's winter, it's cold because I turn the heat off when I leave, right? Because I don't want to waste energy. It's just lonely. And like you have this lonely feeling of like not wanting to go to bed, but not wanting to be awake. Like you want to go to bed because there's nothing to do, but you also don't want to go to bed because it feels like you didn't do anything on the day. It's like I'm looking for something. I don't know if it's pleasure or fulfillment or whatever it is. That was a long time for me. That I felt that way for a year.
What would you do with your time?
I'd probably just go to bed. I'd get high for sure. I'd get
By
high.
yourself?
Yeah, all the time.
Really?
All the time, yeah, for
It's
sure.
wild to me.
For sure.
But there have been times in my life where I drank alone, so I get it.
I think, and again, I get high by myself a lot. So like,
Would
that
you
was
go on
just,
the dating apps? Is that what you would
yeah,
do?
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Or I would talk to whoever I was talking to at the time. It was just a lonely. It was like two lives. It was like the work life was one thing, but when I was home by myself, it was like a completely. Like I told you, like there was days I went without speaking to another human being. Like that was fairly routine.
But you would text, right? I mean,
Sometimes, not always. No, not always.
wow.
Yeah, sometimes I didn't have any human interaction, which I think I liked, but I don't know if I. But again, that was my
This is
lonely.
when you were depressed?
Yeah. That was my lonely land. Like that's why I had friends with benefits. I know that for certain because it was easier to have company than nothing, regardless of the company. Right, regardless of the intention of the company, regardless
Do you
of the
think
quality.
that a lot of people are doing that?
I think when you and I don't know if I've ever told this story. When you and I were getting ready to go to Florida, remember we were going to Florida, and our flight ended up getting canceled, and we didn't end up going.
Yeah.
I was talking to somebody before that, and this wasn't going to be like a dating situation. It was going to be very friends with benefits, hooking up, fling style.
Mm-hmm.
I said no to this. I was like, honestly, this isn't what I want to do. Like, this isn't where I'm at. Like, I don't feel like this is congruent. I ended up messaging Taryn, I think, later that week. And would I have messaged her if I didn't do that?
Right.
Probably not.
If you had done that,
If I had, yeah. I had to say no
to a decent opportunity.
to a decent opportunity to fix Lonely Land.
Yep.
And say, like, whatever, I'm just going to keep doing this. And, like, it's got to be for something greater. I think it's one of those things. And this is what I said this on the team call. A lot of the team is going through Lonely Land because they're all elevating at this exponential rate. If you're listening to this podcast, you don't have to be in Lonely Land. Like, there's a bunch of other people who listen to this that you can go into Next Level Nation and talk to. Like, I believe this, and this is a little hardcore, but if you're in Lonely Land right now and you're a member of this community, you're choosing to be there. Because you could reach out to Alan, myself, Amy, anybody on the team. You could reach out to anybody on the team, or you could reach out to anybody in Next Level Nation. Do a post about, hey, I'm in Lonely Land right now. Does anybody want to mastermind every other week?
Mm-hmm.
Here's my cell phone number. Like, I guarantee somebody will. And I know it's scary, but sometimes you got to do the brave thing to get out of Lonely Land.
This is the analogy. It's like a tunnel. When you enter,
It's like a turtle.
and Brandon is the one who came up with this, so I'll give him credit for this. So Brandon's on the team.
Probably stole it from me.
Yeah, most
No, I'm just
likely. So it's like a tunnel. When you enter the tunnel, there's still light behind you. And you decide, okay, the other side of this mountain, and there's a tunnel through the mountain. The other side of this mountain, I want to get to. I want to get there to that new world. Okay, it's the promised land, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to go into this tunnel, and the more in the middle of the tunnel you get to, the less light there is. Because there's light coming from the other end, and there's light coming from behind you, but the middle portion is super dark.
It's a great analogy.
And Brandon.
Yeah.
And basically what happens is there's snakes in there, and there's spiders, and there's traps, and there's obstacles. What you need to do, there's two things you can do. When you're in the middle of the tunnel, it's the darkest. And I often say that you can't see the stars during the day. You can only see them at night, but they're always there. But sometimes it takes the darkness to see the light. when you're in the middle of the tunnel, you can't see the light from behind you, and you can't see the light at the end of the tunnel. You're just completely in the dark. This is the moment where you can find a guide, or you can go back. You can decide, you know what, this isn't for me, and you can go back to the old person's, places, things, and ideas, or you can get a guide. And I remember this quote by Bruce Mao. I used to say it all the time back when I used to quote everything. And it was, you cannot hold the torch to brighten another's path without also brightening your own.
I've heard you say that.
Yeah. And that's, you asked me originally, what do you do when you're in Lonely Land? There's two options. You can either go back to the old relationships, the old ideas, the old things. For me, I could have gone back and drank. I could have gone back and stayed in those old rooms. I could have done all that. Yeah. Or you can find a guide. I found Nate Smithson as a guide. I found Tony Robbins as a guide. I found Bronnie Ware as a guide. I found you as a guide. I've now got so many guides whenever I find myself in Lonely Land. And by the way, this is the same analogy of the phoenix from the ashes. The old you must burn down in order to rise anew.
Hi everyone, my name is Bianca Thomas. I am the host of the Y Power podcast, and I'm also a client of both Kevin and Alan. I had the absolute pleasure and honor and honestly the blessing of meeting both of these extraordinary men at the beginning of their journey, you know, when the Hyperconscious podcast was just at its beginning. And to keep it short and sweet, these two guys have completely changed my life. Because of them, I've been able to really learn how to love myself, to express myself, to go past my fears and have the courage to do things that I never thought I would have done, like having my own podcast. I'm a little over time, but I just want to say, you know, if there's anyone out there who wants a coach, who wants help, who wants two people to lean on, it's these two guys. They are rare, extraordinary men, and I'm so lucky to have them in my life.
And there's so many different parables about this. Every movie is actually an inspirational story. I shouldn't say every movie, because obviously horror movies kind of aren't. But like Titanic, Kate Winslet's character, Lonely Land is when Cal is flipping the table over saying, you're horrible, and he's like, you will honor me. Like, for anyone who's seen Titanic, Kate Winslet's character is the hero, and Leonardo DiCaprio's the guide. And the moment when she decides to actually take the guide's advice and to go into that new world is the moment when she goes to the front of the ship, and they, you know, kiss and make out in the front of the ship. Amazing scene. The villain is Cal and her mother, who are trying to trap her in this life she doesn't want. All of us are going through Lonely Land. All of us, if you want to get to the next level, you have to say goodbye to the old level, and it sucks. It's tough. One of the reasons I think you don't struggle with Lonely Land as much, even though I still think you do, is because you're not as attached to the old land, the old world. So, for example, if you only had, and no offense, only a couple friends in the old world, it's not going to be as hard to go to the new world. And I also think you have many amazing guides.
I do. I honestly, I think I partially designed it that way.
Yeah.
I think I'm the type of person who, if I can't put enough energy and time into sustaining a relationship, I won't start it. That's the way I am. There's no point. It's like I'm not just going to put up the first level of the building. It doesn't make any sense to me. Mm. Like right now, genuinely, I'm struggling getting back to my father, who's reaching out to me, because I don't know if I want to build a relationship with him. I just don't know if it's worth it for me to say, like, yeah, let's meet up. Because I know if we meet up once, I have to meet up again. And I just don't know if I'm invested in that.
Yeah, it's very odd. It's unique. I'll say it's unique for you to...
And again, I think we don't know.
It's like, why lay that first brick if you can't build the building?
If you don't want to.
It's if you don't want to build the building.
If you don't want to.
That's interesting.
But I think, okay,
I think that's intelligent in many regards.
I think it's also heavy for most people.
Yeah, for sure.
I just think I've been this way for a long time.
Why?
I think growing up without a dad, it was one of those things of like, I just have to pretend it doesn't exist.
Who knew? Who knew that the one thing that appeared to be so adverse is actually your superpower?
As long as you use it in the right way.
Right.
You push people out of your life pretty quickly.
I don't know a single person who struggles with Lonely Land less than you do. Genuinely.
It's
And
never.
I think it's probably because you
I don't think that's
never had a father.
that, and like fear of loss of love isn't really. That doesn't really run me. Fear of failure is my jam. Like
I bet
I'm
you fear
afraid
of loss of love doesn't run you because you lost love at the beginning. You dealt with it right out of the gate.
I'd just rather be successful, because I know I'll have friends. I'm not worried about that. I've never been worried about that.
Yeah. It's not conscious. So if you're out there listening right now and you struggle with Lonely Land, it is because on some level you're afraid to lose your friendships.
Understandably.
Your relationships.
Understandably.
Yeah, exactly.
Understandably. I'm weird. I'm just weird when it comes to that.
Yeah.
And my friendships are built on this.
The new ones are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the ones that lasted are. The ones that last are the ones that I want to be built on this.
Same now.
Right? Like, because I know it's not sustainable for them not to
It's really not. It's not.
That's all.
That wasn't always clear to me, though.
Me either. I think it was one of those things. Okay, so somebody's listening to this right now. What are some indications that they're in Lonely Land in terms of, like, specifics? Where are they in life? Like, are they doing a business thing and other people don't? Like, what are some examples?
The best way to describe it is that a lot of the people you spend time with don't understand you. They don't understand the real you, the new you. This is the best way to describe it. They don't support or understand who you aspire to be. They only see what you used to be or kind of what you are now, but they definitely don't see who you aspire to be. This is the best way to describe it. At all times, everyone out there listening or watching this, you are an amalgamation of 3 different versions of yourself. At all times. And I'm so, like, if I could stamp, like, this on a billboard and put it up for the world, this is what I would put up. You are not your past. You are not your future. You are not the now. You are actually an amalgamation of all 3 of those things. Kevin has a different past than I do. Kevin has a different present than I do. And he has a different future than I do. But it's very similar because we work together. But it's still different. It's still unique.
Yeah.
There is no one type of person. There is no one place to live, one relationship, there's no one anything. There's so many different ways to live this life, and we're all in. You only get one chance at this life. So if you're out there listening, you have a different past than I do. You have, therefore, different beliefs than I do, different talents and strengths than I do. You have a different current lifestyle and life than I do, and you have a different future than I do. And what you aspire to is different. This is why I say this all the time, but I don't like how the personal development industry is so, like, you should be this way. Because it's not true. That doesn't apply to everybody. So right now, you're an amalgamation of who you used to be and all the experiences you've had. That's the first section, a.k.a. the old world. Who you are now, which is Lonely Land, and who you aspire to be. See, Kevin and I want to be friends with Brendan Burchard. We love Brendan. Brendan seems like a great character-driven leader. Want to be friends with him. We're friends with some of his friends. Awesome. Congratulations. Right? Okay. I am not yet friends with Brendan Burchard. I aspire to be. That's the new world that I'm trying to get to. The current is actually somewhat Lonely Land, a little bit. The old world is the old friends that I grew up with that I still love, but I had to leave them in order to become friends with Brendan Burchard. And eventually, Brendan Burchard will be a part of our life, and we'll be friends with him. And again, this is just an analogy for anyone listening. This is like your life. And then there'll be another level that we're aspiring to. See, people think aspiration is a bad thing because it's like, well, why aren't you satisfied with where you are? I am. I'm just excited for the future, too. I don't regret the past. Some of it I do. I've learned from it to make the now better. And then I invest the now toward a brighter future. So if you're out there, how do you know you're in Lonely Land? You know you're in Lonely Land because the old you and the old friends and the old ideas no longer serve you. The way you're living right now isn't quite as good as you want it to be. And by the way, that is life. We're all achieving the unachievable. It's a journey, but the destination dictates it. And Lonely Land, everyone in some regard is in Lonely Land. The question is, are you making it less lonely, with people who are on that same journey. That's the only thing that makes the difference.
And is it lonely land that you've chosen?
Exactly. By design.
Yeah.
Is it the lonely land you've designed?
Because if I was to, and again, it's not about the value of the person. It's just one of those things of like, if I have an hour to spend, it would benefit me more highly to spend it with somebody who has similar aspirations and values and beliefs. It just is that way. If I go the other way, then I'm going to be in lonely land with, like, if I go back, I'm going to be in lonely land compared to the place I used to be with the people.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's just not the same. It's just not going to be the same. And I think that a lot of people, just if you're watching this, if you're listening to this, don't put yourself down a peg. Like, lean into lonely land more. Just make sure you lean into lonely land more, because I know for certain that if I didn't, if you didn't, if the members of the team didn't, if the members of Next Level Nation didn't, they wouldn't be where they are either, because they would go back. Like, it's almost like you're already in pain, you might as well finish, kind of. Like, it already hurts, you might as well, like, finish it. That's kind of that, of, like, you're already lonely. Make sure the people that you connect with are the people that you actually want.
Mm-hmm.
It will be worth it. Genuinely, I can say that with certainty. It will be worth it. And if you want growth, that's the only way to go anyway.
You have to have faith that your future is brighter than your past. If you don't have that faith, you won't make it through lonely land. You'll go back. And you had to say no to that person in order to be with Taryn.
Mm-hmm.
I had to say no to opportunities in order to... I had to break up with my ex-girlfriend, and that was unbelievably lonely.
Yeah.
In order to meet the love of my life.
You and I were struggling for
We were struggling for a
bit.
minute.
Yeah. And this was like...
That actually... Lonely land regarding intimate relationship, that is very hard for me.
Same.
Yeah. And
Same.
I think that's something that you can relate to with this.
Yeah.
Is that not having an intimate partner is very hard for you, I've noticed.
I remember Alan and I were spending probably 3 days a week together recording. We'd go fishing. We'd work out together. We were talking a lot, like working together, right? But we were both single. We were both like pretty lonely. We were both spending nights alone, like just sad.
Regularly.
Yeah.
Yep.
And saying like, this is brutal. We don't have any money. Nobody's listening to the podcast. Like, what are we supposed to do? It was when it comes to health, wealth, and love, like love and wealth were non-existent. Health was there because we were working out, but like the lonely land was in full effect at that time in our life. And I'm glad we kept pushing, because we wouldn't be here if we didn't.
Very best example, and we'll go. The timer went off, and I gotta go to house closing.
House closing.
Something.
Congratulations.
Yes, thank you. So
Shut the timer off, will you?
yeah, shut the timer off. This is the best example. So Kevin and I spend Father's Day together every single year, and we have for the last 3 or 4.
I think 3.
3. And we typically were lonely on that day because everyone else was spending it with their fathers, and we didn't have that. And so instead of being lonely, we decided to hang out.
Yep.
And this last Father's Day, we had a blast. And yes, I caught more fish than Kevin, and if you see the photos on Next Level Nation, so join Next Level Nation, you'll see a photo of Kevin holding up like a fish that's probably
it's minuscule.
anywhere from 5 to 6 inches.
It's
and I had a
fish.
large
and,
bass.
And honestly, you chose the best picture you had. When I had several of those fish. So
yeah, literally.
it is
Yeah,
what it is.
I did. I literally picked the picture with, and Kevin's frowning. It's actually hilarious. I put them next to each other. Kevin's smallest fish with my biggest fish. But seriously, Father's Day, there's a reason we spend time together.
Yeah.
It's because we are in lonely land on that day, and now we're going to actually help kids with that, Boys Without Fathers, for Next Level Hope Foundation. But if you're in lonely land, the best advice that I can give you is get a guide. That can be a coach, it can be a mentor, it can be a peak performance partner. It's got to be someone who has similar core aspirations, core values, and core beliefs. Join Next Level Nation.
Or reach out to Alan and or myself. We both have spots available. Particularly if you're an early entrepreneur and you're trying to get your thing going, Alan can help you tremendously there. Podcasting, I would love to be your guide. We've done a lot of episodes, and we know what podcast/business lonely land is very, very well. So you can reach out to myself at Never Quit Kid, Alan A Lazarus 88 on the gram, or our emails, which I don't know if we ever give out. They're in the show notes. Kevin, and that's mine, at nextleveluniverse.com, Alan at nextleveluniverse.com.
Remember, it's nextleveluniverse.com, not university.
You dig?
I dig.
Anything else?
I think that's it.
Okay, I'm just making sure. You seemed like you were
I had something, but it's all good.
positioning.
If you're out there and you're in lonely land, please reach out. That's all. That's all I've got.
Boom. Ladies and gentlemen, we love you. We appreciate you. And as always, we do not have fans. We have family. We will talk to you tomorrow.
Talk to you soon.
Bye.